The morning sun rose over New Jeju like any other morning. Minho packed his school bag while his little sister Yuna ate breakfast at the kitchen table. Their mother reminded them to take their jackets. The weather forecast said it might rain later. It was an ordinary day in an ordinary colony world, 3,000 years after humanity had last known war. Minho was 12 years old. He lived on New Jeju with his parents and sister. The colony was peaceful, with farms and small towns spread across green valleys. Most families came here from Earth to grow food or raise animals. Life was simple and good. Nobody locked their doors at night. Crime was almost unknown. The biggest excitement in recent months was when the Choi family's cow had twins. At school, Minho met his best friend Hyun by the front gates. They talked about their science project while walking to class. Today was special because their teacher, Ms. Nari, was taking them outside for a biology lesson. They would study the local plants and insects near the forest edge. All 30 students in the class were excited. Learning outdoors was always better than sitting at desks. The class gathered at the forest edge just before noon. Ms. Nari divided them into small groups. Each group had tablets to record what they found. Minho worked with Hyun and Yuna, who had tagged along because her class was doing the same activity nearby. The three friends laughed as they searched for interesting leaves and bugs. The sky was bright blue. Birds sang in the trees. Everything felt perfect. Then the sky changed. The blue disappeared behind massive shadows. Minho looked up and his tablet fell from his hands. Ships filled the sky, not the sleek research vessels that sometimes visited the colony. These were different. Dark metal hulls covered with strange symbols. Dozens of them, each bigger than the largest building in town. They made no sound as they hung there, blocking out the sun. Ms. Nari's face went pale. She grabbed her communication device and tried to call the colony administration. Her hands shook as she pressed the buttons. Around them, other teachers did the same thing. The children stood frozen, staring up at the impossible sight above them. "Everyone stay calm," Ms. Nari said, but her voice was not calm at all. "Stay together. We need to go back to school right now." Before they could move, lights appeared beneath the alien ships. Bright beams shot down from the hulls, surrounding groups of children in columns of yellow light. Minho felt something grab him. Not hands, but a force he could not see or fight. His feet lifted off the ground. Yuna screamed next to him. Hyun reached out, but the light had him too. They rose into the air. Ms. Nari ran toward them, shouting, but she could not reach them. The light pulled them up faster and faster. Minho saw other beams across the valley, lifting more children from other schools. Hundreds of lights. Hundreds of children rising toward the dark ships. The beam pulled Minho through an opening in the nearest ship's hull. He landed on a hard metal floor with dozens of other children. They were in a large room with gray walls and harsh lighting. Strange creatures stood around them. Tall beings with rough purple skin and 4 arms. Their faces had too many eyes. They wore armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. One creature spoke in a language Minho did not understand. Its voice was harsh and cold. Another creature moved through the group, scanning each child with a handheld device. When it came to Minho, the device beeped. The creature made a mark on a tablet and moved to the next child. "Yuna," Minho called out. He found his sister crying in a corner. He pushed through the crowd and held her. "It's okay. I'm here. I want to go home," Yuna sobbed. "I want Mom." Hyun found them and sat close. His face was brave, but his eyes showed fear. All around them, children cried or called for their parents. The alien creatures ignored them. They worked efficiently, scanning everyone, making their marks, sorting the children into different groups. More children arrived through other openings in the ceiling. Minho recognized kids from other towns. Soon the room held hundreds of them. The aliens herded them through a doorway into an even larger space. This room had cages built into the walls, metal bars from floor to ceiling. The creatures pushed children into the cages, 20 or 30 per cage, then locked the doors. Minho, Yuna, and Hyun ended up in the same cage with 27 other children. Some were very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Others were teenagers. Everyone was scared. Some children still screamed. Others had gone quiet, their eyes empty with shock. The ship shuddered. Minho felt movement beneath his feet. They were leaving New Jeju, leaving their families, going somewhere unknown. Back on New Jeju, chaos spread through every settlement. Parents ran to schools and found them empty. Communication channels filled with desperate calls. The colony governor tried to contact the alien ships but received no response. Security forces had no weapons that could reach orbit. They had no military ships, no defense systems. New Jeju was a farming colony. Violence was something from history books. The governor sent emergency messages to Earth. It took 3 hours for the signal to reach the home world. 3 hours while parents held each other and wept. 3 hours while empty schools stood as silent monuments to the unthinkable. On Earth, in the capital city, Admiral Tajan Park received the message in his office. He was the head of the Terran Coalition's Defense Coordinating Committee. The position was mostly ceremonial. Humanity had not fought a war in 3,000 years. His job involved coordinating asteroid mining safety and managing traffic around major space stations. He read the message 3 times. 847 children, taken by alien ships, species unknown. Ships had jumped to faster than light travel and disappeared. Tajan called Commander Somin Lee into his office. She was his deputy, a career officer who had spent 30 years in a military that had never seen combat. Together they stared at the screen. "This is real?" Somin asked. "New Jeju's governor sent it," Tajan replied. "Video footage confirms it. Multiple witnesses. The children are gone." Somin sat down heavily. "What do we do? We don't even have protocols for this." "We have protocols," Tajan said quietly. "Very old ones." "From before the peace, stored in the archive computers. Those are 3,000 years old. Then we better hope they still work." Within hours, every government official on Earth knew what happened. Dr. Ji-won Choi, the lead xenodiplomat, tried to identify the alien species from the footage. She spent hours reviewing databases of known civilizations. Finally, she found a match: the Valdrine Dominion, a slaving empire operating in the outer reaches of known space. Humanity had never made contact with them before. The galaxy was large and full of species that never met. Ji-won opened communication channels, sending messages in every language protocol they had. She explained what happened. She asked for the children's return. She offered payment, resources, anything they wanted. Her messages went into the void. No response came. The Terran High Council gathered for an emergency session. 20 representatives from Earth and the colony worlds. Council Chair Doyen Kim opened the meeting with grim news. Intelligence services had tracked the Valdrine ships. They were heading deeper into Valdrine space toward their core worlds, toward their slave markets. "We need to be careful," Doyen said. "We don't understand these aliens. We don't know their capabilities. Rash action could make things worse. Worse than our children being sold as slaves," someone shouted from the back. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some called for immediate military action. Others urged patience and diplomacy. The debate went on for hours. But as evening fell and still no response came from the Valdrine, even the most peaceful voices began to change their minds. Finally, near midnight, Doyen called for a vote. The question was simple. Should humanity mobilize for war? Should they dust off 3,000 years of peaceful history and remember how to fight? Every hand rose. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Tajan left the council chamber and walked to the old military archive building. The lights turned on automatically as he entered. Dust covered everything. He found the computer terminals and activated them. The screens flickered to life, showing files that nobody had opened in millennia. War plans, weapon designs, ship blueprints. All the knowledge humanity hoped they would never need again. He began downloading the files. There was so much to do. Ships to build, soldiers to train, an entire military to create from nothing. And somewhere out there, 847 children waited in cages hoping someone would save them. The age of peace was over. Humanity was going to war. The industrial centers of Earth hummed with activity never seen in 3,000 years. Factories that built exploration ships and terraforming equipment now switched to war production. Engineers pulled up ancient weapon designs from the archives and stared at them with mixed horror and fascination. Nobody alive had ever built a warship before. They would have to learn quickly. Admiral Tajan stood in the main construction bay above Earth's orbit. Through the massive windows, he watched robotic arms assemble the skeleton of what would become the Indomitable Will, the flagship of humanity's new fleet. It was enormous, designed to carry weapons, shields, and enough firepower to break planets. The sight made him feel sick and proud at the same time. How long until she's ready? he asked the engineer beside him. Mina Yoon checked her tablet. She was young for such responsibility, only 32, but she was the best engineer in the system. 6 months if everything goes perfectly. 8 months more likely. We're inventing half of this as we go. We don't have 8 months. I know, Minha said quietly, but ships this complex take time. We can't rush certain processes. The hull integrity alone requires— Do whatever you can, Taijin interrupted. Those children don't have time for perfection. Mina nodded and went back to her work. Taijin watched her go, then turned back to the construction. All across Earth's orbital space, more ships were being built. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, 400 vessels in total if they could manage it. The largest fleet humanity had assembled since the ancient days of the United Earth Fleet. Down on Earth's surface, millions of people volunteered for military service. They came from every colony, every city, every walk of life. Farmers, teachers, scientists, artists, all willing to become soldiers. The training facilities could barely handle them all. Old military bases were reopened, their buildings still standing after thousands of years of disuse. General Boram Kwan walked through one such base, watching new recruits practice basic combat drills. She was 60 years old with gray hair and sharp eyes. Before the crisis, she taught military history at university. Now she commanded the entire ground force. It felt strange to teach people how to kill when she had spent her career teaching them why killing was wrong. A young recruit stumbled during the drill. His instructor, a man named Sergeant Kwan, helped him up and showed him the proper stance. Kwan had been a physical education teacher 3 months ago. Now he trained soldiers. Everyone was learning new roles. They're doing well, said a voice beside Boram. She turned to see Yoonji Han, a corporal who had retrained from xenobiology to combat medicine. Yoonji was 28 with kind eyes that had seen too much sadness lately. They're doing their best, Boram corrected. But best might not be enough. These people never held weapons before, never hurt anyone, and we're asking them to fight an empire that has been at war for thousands of years. We have better technology, Yoonji offered. Technology doesn't replace experience. Far away, aboard the Valdrine slave transport, Minho counted the days. He made marks on the wall of the cage with a small stone he found. 23 marks now. 23 days since they left New Jeju. The younger children had stopped crying as much. Now they sat quietly, saving their energy. Food came twice a day through slots in the cage bars. Water came once. It was never enough. Minho watched their Valdrine guards carefully. He learned their patterns. One guard came every morning at the same time. Another did rounds in the evening. A third brought food. They were lazy, confident. They had done this many times before and saw no threat from caged children. We should try to escape, Hyun whispered one night. And go where? Minho replied. We're on a ship in space. Even if we got out of the cage, we'd have nowhere to run. Yuna huddled between them, smaller and thinner than before. Are Mom and Dad looking for us? Yes, Minho said firmly. I promise you. They're looking. He hoped he was telling the truth, but doubt crept in during the dark hours. Did anyone even know where they were? Could anyone find them in the vastness of space? A few cages away, a young alien sat pressed against the bars. Her name was Kess, and she was not human. She looked almost human except for her blue-tinted skin and large dark eyes. She had been a slave for 2 years, taken from her own world by the same Valdrine that took the humans. She watched Minho and his friends with curiosity. You are new to this, Kess said in broken but understandable human language. She had learned it from listening to them talk. Minho crawled closer to her cage. How do you speak our words? I listen, I learn. It is what you must do to survive. Kess pressed her face against the bars. They take us to the auction worlds, big markets where rich people buy slaves. Some buy for work, some buy for— She paused, searching for words. For other things. Bad things. Can we escape from there? Hyun asked. Kess laughed, but it was not a happy sound. No one escapes. The Valdrine are too strong, too many. They have done this for so long. Your people should forget you. It is kinder. Our people won't forget us, Minho said with more confidence than he felt. Back on Earth, Dr. Ji-won Choi finally received a response to her diplomatic messages. But it did not come from the Valdrine. It came from a species called the Torvin. They were a democratic federation that existed in the same region of space. The message was cautious but helpful. Ji-won read it aloud to Admiral Taejin in his office. The Torvins say they have suffered from Valdrine raids for centuries. They take people from border worlds and sell them. The Valdrine are powerful, ancient, cruel. The Torvin have tried to fight them before and always lost. Can they help us? Tajin asked. They're offering intelligence, ship movements, locations of slave markets. They say they cannot join a war against the Valdrine. They're not strong enough, but they will share information if we promise to. She paused. To actually do something about it. They doubt we will. They doubt we can. Apparently, most species who lose people to the Valdrine just accept it. The cost of fighting back is too high. Tajin stood and walked to his window. Below, Earth glowed blue and green, peaceful and beautiful. We're not most species. Set up a meeting with these Torvin. I want to know everything they know. The meeting happened through secure channels 3 days later. Ambassador Seojin Park, a specialist in alien cultures, led the human delegation. The Torvin representative appeared on screen, a being with golden fur and 3 eyes. His name was difficult to pronounce, so he offered to be called simply by the title Ambassador. Your mobilization is impressive, the Torvin ambassador said. His voice was smooth, almost musical. In 6 months, you have built what takes other species decades. But you must understand. The Valdrine Dominion has 6,000 ships. They control 100 worlds. They have fought wars for 4,000 years. Numbers are not everything, Seojin replied calmly. No, but they help. The Torvin's middle eye blinked slowly. I must ask, why are you doing this? They took less than 1,000 of your young. You have billions of people. Why risk so much for so few? The question hung in the air. Seojin looked at each member of her team before answering. Because they are ours. Because they are children. Because if we do nothing, we are not worthy of calling ourselves human. The Torvin ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a gesture that might have been respect. I see. Then we will help as we can. But you should know. The Valdrine will not negotiate. They will not return the children willingly. If you want them back, you will have to take them by force. We understand, and you should know something else. You are not the first species to try this. Others have gone to war to recover their people. They all failed. The Valdrine are very, very good at war. Then we will have to be better. As months passed, the Liberation Fleet took shape. 400 ships, each one equipped with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Minya and her team worked around the clock, installing quantum torpedoes and directed plasma cannons. The technology was theoretical, based on scientific papers and computer simulations. They would not know if it truly worked until the first battle. The most terrifying weapon was the Cascade Drive. Minya had invented it by accident while working on a new engine design. She discovered that with the right modifications, she could cause a chain reaction in a star, make it go supernova, destroy an entire solar system. When she realized what she had created, she went to Admiral Tajin privately. This weapon should not exist, she told him. It is too terrible. Can you build it? He asked, yes, but then build it, and pray we never have to use it. Training continued on Earth. The volunteers became soldiers. They learned to shoot, to move as units, to follow orders without question. General Borum pushed them hard but fairly. She knew that many would die when the real fighting started. She wanted to make sure it was not because they were poorly prepared. Corporal Yunji trained medical teams. She studied Valdrine biology from information the Torvin provided. She learned where their vital organs were, how their blood worked, how to kill them if necessary. The knowledge felt wrong in her mind. She had become a doctor to save lives, not end them. But war made monsters of everyone, she supposed. 8 months after the abduction, the Liberation Fleet was ready. Not perfect, not as prepared as anyone wanted, but ready enough. The Liberation Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Valdrine space. 400 warships appeared where there had been only empty space moments before. On the bridge of the indomitable Will, Admiral Tajin watched the screens as his sensors swept the area. They were deep in enemy territory now. There was no turning back. Send the message, he ordered. Commander Soman activated the communications array. The message went out on all frequencies, in every language protocol humanity possessed. It was simple and direct. Return our children. They waited. Minutes passed in silence. Every person on every ship held their breath, hoping against hope that the Valdrine would simply give back what they had taken. That war could still be avoided. No response came. Sir, called the sensor officer. I have contacts. 12 ships approaching from the second planet. They're big. Cruiser class at least. Tejan felt his stomach tighten. This was it. The moment everything became real. Battle stations. All ships prepare for engagement. Alarms sounded throughout the fleet. Soldiers ran to their positions. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. The human fleet spread out in the formation General Borum had designed, based on 3,000-year-old tactics updated with modern technology. The Valdrine ships came closer. They were massive things covered in weapons and armor plating. These were veteran warships that had been fighting for decades. They approached the human fleet with confidence, almost lazily. They had done this countless times before. The lead Valdrine ship sent a message. It was not in any language the humans understood, but the translation software decoded it. Unknown vessels, you are in Valdrine territory. Leave or be destroyed. Reply, Tejan said. Tell them we will leave when they return our children. The response came quickly. This time it was laughter, just laughter. Then the Valdrine ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked across the void. The battle began. Human ships dodged and maneuvered, their newer engines making them faster than the Valdrine expected. The first volley missed completely. The Valdrine seemed surprised. Return fire, Tejan ordered. All weapons target the lead ship. Quantum torpedoes launched from a dozen human ships. They were Mina's design, weapons that existed only in theory until now. The torpedoes hit the lead Valdrine cruiser's shields, and something unexpected happened. The shields collapsed instantly, overloaded by the quantum energy. The follow-up plasma cannons tore into the ship's bare hull. The Valdrine cruiser exploded. Just like that. One of their veteran warships gone in seconds. The other 11 Valdrine ships suddenly moved with more urgency. They spread out and attacked from multiple angles. But the human fleet worked together perfectly, their coordination managed by computers faster than any biological mind. Every ship knew where every other ship was. They moved like a school of fish, flowing around attacks and concentrating fire. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, all 12 Valdrine ships were destroyed or disabled. Not a single human vessel had taken serious damage. The human crew sat in stunned silence. They had expected a hard fight. Expected casualties. Instead, they had won overwhelmingly. Did we just... Soman started to say. Yes. Tejan replied. We won, but that was just a patrol. The real fight is ahead. News of the battle spread through Valdrine space at the speed of light. The peaceful species from the outer sectors had come to their territory, and they had weapons nobody had seen before. The Valdrine Dominion had ruled for 4,000 years through superior military might. For the first time in centuries, they faced a real threat. On the slave world of Kelvaros Prime, Minho and the other children were unloaded from their transport ship. They stumbled into bright sunlight, blinking after weeks in dim artificial light. Guards with shock weapons herded them toward large buildings. Around them, Minho saw other slaves. Hundreds of different species, all in chains, all heading toward the same destination, the auction house. Kess walked beside them. She had become their friend during the journey, teaching them things about the Valdrine that might help them survive. Now she looked sad, her blue face even more pale than usual. They will separate you, she warned. Families split up. Friends too. They do it on purpose. Easier to control slaves who have no one. No, Yuna whispered, grabbing Minho's hand. I want to stay with you. We'll figure something out, Minho promised, though he had no idea what. They entered the building. Inside was organized chaos. Slaves in holding pens. Buyers walking between them, inspecting merchandise. The air smelled of too many bodies and too small a space. Valdrine guards stood everywhere, watching with their multiple eyes, weapons ready. That night, locked in a new cage with Hyun and 15 other children, Minho made a decision. Kess had said escape was impossible, but Minho refused to believe that. There had to be a way. They just needed to find it. Listen, he whispered to the others. Tomorrow they're going to sell us. Once we're separated, we might never see each other again. So we try tonight. We try to escape. How? Asked a girl named Jisoo. She was 9 years old and had not stopped shaking since they arrived. I've been watching the guards. They change shifts every 6 hours. For about 10 minutes during the change, this section has only 2 guards instead of 4. If we could get out of the cage during that time. We're still in a building full of guards, Hyun pointed out. Even if we get out of the cage, where do we go? I saw communication equipment in the front office, Minho said. If we could reach it, we could send a distress signal. Maybe someone will hear. It was a desperate plan. A stupid plan, probably. But it was better than doing nothing. The others nodded slowly. They would try. The shift change came in the deep hours of night. The guards left their posts, heading toward the break room. 2 new guards walked the halls, but they were focused on the other sections. Minho used a piece of metal he had stolen earlier, working it into the cage lock. He had watched the guards open it dozens of times. He thought he understood how it worked. The lock clicked. The cage door swung open. Minho could not believe it. They were out. 19 children crept through the dark building. Every shadow made them freeze. Every sound sent their hearts racing. They reached the front office. The door was locked, but this time Hyun had an idea. He boosted Yuna up to the window above the door. She was small enough to squeeze through. She dropped down inside and opened the door from within. The communication equipment was old but functional. Minho did not know how to use it. He pressed buttons randomly, hoping something would work. Finally, a green light appeared. A transmission light. He spoke quickly in human language, knowing most species had translation software. This is Minho from Earth. We are human children held as slaves on Kelvaros Prime. Please, if anyone can hear this, tell our people where we are. Tell them we need help. Tell them. Alarms shrieked through the building. Lights blazed to life. Heavy footsteps thundered toward them. They had been discovered. Run, Minho shouted, but there was nowhere to run. Valdrine guards poured into the office from both doors. The children huddled together as the guards surrounded them. One guard, bigger than the others, raised his shock weapon. Then everything changed. The building shook. Explosions sounded from outside. The guards looked up in confusion. More explosions, closer now. The walls cracked. Dust fell from the ceiling. The guard's communication device crackled to life. A voice shouted something in the Valdrine language. The guard's face changed from anger to fear. All the guards suddenly ran from the room, leaving the children alone. Minho ran to the window. Outside, the sky was full of ships. Human ships. He would recognize their design anywhere. Dropships descended toward the ground, and soldiers in human armor poured out. The battle for Kelvaros Prime had begun. General Borum led the assault from the command ship in orbit. She watched the tactical displays as her 50,000 Marines engaged the Valdrine defenders. The fighting was brutal. The Valdrine fought hard, knowing defeat meant accountability for centuries of crimes. But human soldiers fought harder. They fought for the children they had come to save. Corporal Yunji landed with the 3rd wave. Her medical unit set up a field hospital in a captured building. Within minutes, the wounded started arriving. Human soldiers with burns and broken bones. Some injuries were worse. She worked quickly, efficiently, saving as many as she could. A young soldier, barely 20 years old, died on her table. His name was Minsu. He had been a music student before volunteering. Yunji closed his eyes gently, then moved to the next patient. There was no time for grief. Not yet. The battle raged for 12 hours. Finally, human forces broke through to the auction house. They found it damaged but still standing. Soldiers rushed inside, searching for children. They found them in the cages, terrified but alive. They found Minho and Yuna and Hyun, still huddled in the front office, afraid to come out during the fighting. A soldier knelt beside Minho. She removed her helmet, revealing a kind face. "Hey there. I'm Lieutenant Rena. We're from Earth. We've come to take you home." Minho stared at her. He had hoped. He had believed. But seeing it happen felt unreal. "You came," he whispered. "You really came." "Of course we came," Rena said, smiling through her tears. "Did you think we would leave you?" They rescued 619 children from Kelvaros Prime. 6. The 2 fleets met at Valdris, the heart of the Valdrine Dominion. 6,000 Valdrine warships against 400 human vessels. The numbers were not close.
Any logical analysis said humanity should retreat.
Admiral Tajin ordered his fleet forward instead. The Valdrine ships formed a massive wall of metal and weapons. They had been fighting wars since before human civilization existed. Their tactics were refined over millennia. Their crews were veterans of 100 battles. They looked at the small human fleet with contempt. "They are fools," Imperial Archon Velrak said from his command ship. "This will be over in an hour." The battle began at dawn on the 3rd planet of Valdris. Human ships did not charge blindly into the Valdrine formation. Instead, they split into small groups, moving fast and unpredictable. The Valdrine tried to track them but struggled. Human ships were smaller, faster, more maneuverable than anything they had faced before. The first wave of quantum torpedoes struck the Valdrine left flank. Shields that had protected those ships for decades collapsed instantly. Plasma cannons followed, tearing through armor like paper. 20 Valdrine ships exploded before they could return fire. But the Valdrine had numbers. For every human ship, there were 15 Valdrine vessels. They surrounded the human groups, pouring fire from all directions. The human shields held for a while, but eventually they began to fail. The destroyer Relentless took a direct hit to its engine core. The explosion killed everyone aboard instantly. 300 people gone in a flash of light. The cruiser Steadfast lost its bridge to a missile strike. The crew managed to regain control, but half their weapons were offline. On the indomitable Will, Admiral Tajan watched the battle unfold across multiple screens. Red lights indicated damaged or destroyed human ships. There were too many red lights. Commander Sumin reported casualties in a steady mechanical voice, trying not to think about the people behind the numbers. The Valdrine are trying to overwhelm us with numbers, Tajan said. They don't realize that's what we want. Execute Plan Delta. Sir, that plan is incredibly risky, Soman protested. I know. Do it anyway. Plan Delta involved drawing the Valdrine fleet into a tight formation. Human ships pretended to retreat, falling back toward each other. The Valdrine took the bait, pressing their advantage. Soon, thousands of their ships clustered together, all firing at the human fleet. That was when Minha's second surprise activated. Every human ship carried special mines that had been deployed throughout the battle. Tiny devices that looked like debris. The Valdrine had ignored them, focused on the bigger targets. Now those mines activated simultaneously. They were electromagnetic pulse devices designed to disrupt shields and electronics. Thousands of them going off at once created a cascade effect. The tightly packed Valdrine ships suddenly lost their shields. Their weapons went offline. Their engines sputtered and failed. For 30 seconds, the Valdrine fleet was defenseless. The human ships opened fire with everything they had. It was a slaughter. Valdrine ships exploded by the dozen, then by the 100. The organized formation became chaos. Some ships tried to run. Others tried to fight. Most just died. When the electromagnetic pulse wore off and the Valdrine systems came back online, they found themselves facing a human fleet that was damaged, but still fighting. Worse, they had lost nearly half their ships in those 30 seconds. The battle had turned, but the Valdrine did not surrender. They regrouped and attacked again. The fighting continued through the day and into the night. Space around Valdris became a graveyard of broken ships. Human and Valdrine corpses floated among the debris. On the indomitable Will, a Valdrine boarding party managed to breach the hull. 30 Valdrine soldiers poured into the engineering section. They expected to overwhelm the human crew easily. Instead, they found themselves in a maze of corridors that kept changing. Doors sealed behind them. New passages opened ahead. Security systems tracked their every move. The ship's interior was designed to trap invaders. Automated defenses activated, filling the corridors with gas. Then came the human soldiers wearing gas masks, shooting from protected positions. The Valdrine boarding party was wiped out in minutes. Corporal Yunji worked in the medical bay, treating wounded as they arrived. The bay was overwhelmed. More patients than beds. She triaged quickly, deciding who could be saved and who could not. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. Some soldiers she knew personally, had shared meals with, laughed with. Now she watched them die because she had to save others first. A young pilot named Junho was brought in with severe burns. Yunji knew immediately he would not survive, but she held his hand anyway as the life left his eyes. He whispered something about his mother on Earth. Then he was gone. Yunji had no time to cry. The next patient arrived. The battle entered its third day. Both fleets were battered and exhausted. The Valdrine still had more ships, but they were scattered and demoralized. The humans were down to 300 functioning vessels, but they fought with desperation. They had come too far to lose now. Then Admiral Tajan made his final move. The indomitable Will broke from the main battle, heading toward Valdris's sun. A dozen Valdrine ships pursued, trying to stop the flagship. Human escorts engaged them, buying time. The Will reached the sun's orbit and stopped. Tajan opened a channel to every ship in the system, friend and enemy alike. His voice was tired but firm. This is Admiral Tajan Park of the Terran Coalition. I am activating a weapon called the Cascade Drive. In 60 seconds, it will cause this star to go supernova. Everyone in this system will die. Planets, ships, everything. I am giving the Valdrine one chance. Tell me where every remaining human child is located. Give me those coordinates, or we all die here. In his palace, which was actually a massive ship hidden among the fleet, Archon Velrax laughed. He is bluffing. No species would destroy themselves just to... The countdown appeared on every screen. 50 seconds. 45. 40. Velrax stopped laughing. Back on Earth, Council Chair Doyen watched the broadcast with horror. He tried to open a channel to Taijin but could not get through. What is he doing? Doyen shouted. We never authorized this. Ambassador Seojin stood beside him, her face pale. He is doing what he thinks he must. God help us all. 30 seconds. 25. 20. The Valdrine fleet began to pull back, trying to escape the blast radius, but they would not make it in time. None of them would. The star was too big, the explosion would be too fast. 15 seconds. On the Indomitable Will, Commander Soman looked at Tajan. Sir, are you really going to do this? I hope I don't have to, Tajan replied. His hand rested on the activation button. He did not look away from the countdown. 10 seconds. 9. 8. A transmission came through. It was Archon Velrax himself. Stop. I will give you what you want. Stop the countdown. Coordinates, Tajan demanded. Now 7, 6, I am sending them. All slave markets. All private buyers. Every location. Velrax was no longer the confident ruler. He was scared. Please stop the countdown. 5, 4. The coordinates appeared on the Will's computers. Hundreds of them. Scattered across dozens of star systems. Every remaining human child. Every location. 3. Verify these coordinates, Tajan ordered his crew. Are they real? They match our intelligence, sir. This appears to be genuine. 2. Tajan's finger hovered over the button. For a moment he considered pushing it anyway, ending the Valdrine Dominion forever, making them pay for every child they had taken, every life they had ruined, every species they had enslaved. 1. He released the button. The countdown stopped at 0, but nothing happened. The star continued burning normally. There would be no supernova today. Stand down the Cascade Drive, Tajan ordered quietly. The galaxy exhaled. A war that nearly ended with mutual destruction had stopped at the last possible moment. But the cost had been terrible. The human fleet had lost 97 ships. 14,000 soldiers were dead. 30,000 more were wounded. The Valdrine had lost worse. 3,000 ships destroyed. Millions of casualties. Their empire, which had seemed invincible, was broken. Over the next 2 months, human strike teams deployed to every location on Velrax's list. They recovered the remaining children. Some missions went smoothly. Others required force. The humans no longer asked permission. They took their children back and destroyed anyone who got in the way. General Borum personally led the final mission to the Pleasure, world of Keltar 7. This was where the youngest children had been sold to wealthy collectors. When Borum saw the conditions those children were kept in, she had to walk away before she did something she would regret. Her soldiers were not so controlled. 3 Valdrine buyers died resisting arrest. Many more were beaten by soldiers who had seen too much. The images from Keltar 7 were broadcast back to Earth. The public saw what had been done to the children. The anger that had fueled the war burned even hotter. There were calls for the complete destruction of the Valdrine species, for revenge beyond measure. Minho, Yuna, and Hyun watched the news from their room on the Indomitable Will. They had been aboard for 3 weeks, recovering from their ordeal. They were safe now, fed, clothed, cared for, but they were not the same children who had been taken from New Jeju. None of the children were. Did we cause all this? Yuna asked quietly. All these people dying. All this fighting. Because of us? 2 years had passed since the day the ships came to New Jeju. The Liberation Fleet returned to Earth orbit to a welcome like nothing in human history. Millions gathered to watch the ships arrive. They cheered and cried and celebrated. But for the soldiers aboard those ships, the celebration felt hollow. They had won, but they had also learned what it meant to kill. Admiral Tajan stood on the bridge of the indomitable Will as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. He was older now, his hair gray, his face lined with stress. Commander Soman sat beside him, equally changed. They did not speak. There was nothing left to say. The final count was public knowledge. 47,000 human soldiers dead, 180,000 wounded. Some would recover fully, others would carry their injuries forever. And then there were the Valdrine casualties. Over 3 million dead, entire planets devastated by the fighting. The children returned home to different worlds. Some went back to New Jeju, though many families had moved away after the abduction. The planet felt haunted now. Other children were placed with relatives on different colonies. A few had no family left and went to special homes on Earth. Minho, Yuna, and Hyun returned to New Jeju because their parents insisted. Their mother held them for hours on the landing pad, crying and laughing at the same time. Their father stood nearby trying to be strong but failing. When he finally hugged his children, he did not let go for a very long time. But home was not the same. Minho could not sleep in his old bed. He woke up screaming from nightmares about cages and aliens. Yuna stopped talking for weeks. She would sit and stare at nothing, lost in memories. Hyun tried to act normal but jumped at sudden noises and could not stand being in small spaces. Therapist came from Earth to help. Dr. Daesam was one of them, a specialist in trauma. She met with the children individually and in groups. She told them it was okay to be scared, okay to be angry, okay to feel however they felt. What happened to you was terrible, Dr. Daesam said during one session. You survived something no child should have to face. It is going to take time to heal. Maybe a long time, but you will heal. Will we forget? Yuna asked quietly. No, Dr. Daesam said honestly. You will never forget. But the memories will hurt less, and you will learn to live with them. Of the 847 children taken, 228 did not come home. Some had died in captivity. Others were killed during the rescue operations. Each one had a memorial now, their names carved into a black stone monument on New Jeju. Every year on the anniversary of the abduction, people gathered there to remember. The political aftermath was complicated. The Valdrine Dominion collapsed completely. Their empire, which had ruled 100 worlds, fragmented into dozens of small states. Some became democracies. Others fell into civil war. The species that had been enslaved fought for their freedom. Millions more died in these secondary conflicts. A coalition government was established to oversee the transition. Humans held a permanent seat along with the Torvan and several other species. Ambassador Seojin led the human delegation. She worked 18-hour days trying to build peace from the ashes of war. One of the first laws the coalition passed was the Universal Freedom Act. It banned slavery in all forms across every member world. Violators would face immediate military intervention. The law was enforced by the Guardian Fleet, formerly the Liberation Fleet. The ships stayed in service, now patrolling the borders to prevent future atrocities. But back on Earth, people debated what the war meant for humanity's soul. Council Chair Doyen spoke to the Terran High Council about his concerns. We spent 3,000 years learning peace, he said. We taught our children that violence was wrong, that problems could be solved with words and cooperation. Then in less than a year, we built weapons of mass destruction and used them without hesitation. What does that say about us? Some agreed with him. They worried that humanity had relearned violence too easily, that the weapons they built would not be unmade, that future generations would see war as an acceptable solution. Others disagreed. We did what was necessary, argued General Baram during a public debate. Our children were stolen, sold as slaves. If we had done nothing, what would that say about us? Sometimes violence is the only language evil understands. Admiral Tajan retired from military service. He could not continue. The burden of the decisions he made was too heavy. In his final speech, broadcast across all human worlds, he spoke from his heart. I gave the orders that killed thousands of people. I was willing to destroy an entire star system. I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I did what I thought was necessary to bring our children home. Whether that was right or wrong, history will judge. But I want everyone to understand. War is not glorious. It is not exciting. It is terrible and brutal, and it breaks everyone it touches. May we never need to wage it again. He moved to a small house in the countryside and rarely appeared in public. When he did, people treated him like a hero. He did not feel like one. Engineer Mina dismantled the Cascade drive. She personally destroyed every blueprint, every design file, every piece of research that could recreate it. The weapon that could kill stars would not exist in this universe again if she had anything to say about it. Some knowledge is too dangerous, she told a group of students at the engineering academy. Some weapons should never be built. I created the Cascade drive because we needed an advantage. But now that the war is over, it needs to disappear. Forever. Not everyone agreed with her decision. Some military officials wanted to keep the weapon as a deterrent. If others know we have it, they will not attack us, they argued. But Mina refused. The Cascade drive died with her research. Corporal Yunji left military service and returned to being a doctor. But she could not practice medicine the same way anymore. She had seen too much death. Instead, she became a therapist specializing in helping soldiers deal with combat trauma. She understood what they were going through better than anyone. One of her patients was a young man named Junho's brother, Min Seok. He had not been in the war, but his brother had died in it. Min Seok was angry. At the Valdrine. At the military leaders who sent his brother to fight. At the universe for being unfair. Your anger is valid, Yunji told him. Loss is hard. Unfair loss is harder, but holding on to anger will poison you. Your brother died for something he believed in. Honor that. Live a life that makes his sacrifice meaningful. It took time, but Min Seok eventually found peace. He became a teacher, working with the returned children. Many soldiers' families did similar work, turning their pain into purpose. The Torvin Collective, humanity's allies during the war, proposed a mutual defense treaty. Other species joined. Within 5 years, a new alliance existed, the Galactic Security Council. Its purpose was to prevent conflicts, protect vulnerable species, and respond to threats like the Valdrine had been. Humanity was at the center of this new alliance. The species that had been absent from galactic politics for millennia suddenly became major players. Other species watched them with respect and fear. Respect for their technology and determination, fear of what they might become. At the first Security Council meeting, Ambassador Seojin addressed these fears directly. We understand your concern, she said. We built a military in months. We fought a war that devastated an empire. We were willing to destroy a star to achieve our goals. I would be afraid of us too. But understand this. We did not want war. We wanted peace. We still want peace. Everything we did to protect our children. That is all we will ever use our power for. Protection, not conquest. Time would tell if she was right. Minho graduated from secondary school with high marks. Many of his fellow survivors went into different fields. Some became diplomats hoping to prevent future conflicts. Others became doctors or therapists wanting to heal trauma. A few joined the military, believing someone needed to stand guard so others could sleep safely. Minho chose the Terran Coalition Academy to study alien cultures and conflict resolution. On his application essay, he wrote about his experience. I was taken because the Valdrine saw humans as things, not people. They did not care about our pain, did not see us as real. This is how all great evils begin, when one group stops seeing another as equals. I want to spend my life making sure everyone sees each other as people first. Maybe that way we can avoid future wars. He was accepted immediately. Earth established a new holiday called Remembrance Day. It was not a celebration. It was a day of quiet reflection. On this day, humanity remembered both their 3,000 years of peace and the terrible year when they broke it. Schools taught children about the war, not to glorify it, but to show the cost. Yuna attended the first Remembrance Day ceremony. She was 14 now, still quiet and thoughtful. She placed a flower at the memorial for the children who did not come home. Then she placed another flower at the military memorial for the soldiers who died rescuing them. Thank you, she whispered to names she did not know. I am sorry you had to die for us. I will try to make my life worth your sacrifice. That evening, Dr. Ji-won gave a speech that was broadcast across all human worlds. She spoke about the future. The question before us is simple. What kind of species do we want to